Thank you so much, Kushagra. I'm really happy
Right.
to see you here, and very, very, very hearty congratulations on making two different IIMs, and finally you will be starting your PhD journey. I'm really
Right.
happy. So, how
Thank
are
you.
you
Thank you so
feeling?
much.
What's your feeling here?
It's a good feeling in the sense I would not say that I am extremely excited, but yes, it's good to know that I have got through. More than excitement, it's a relief that I have got through. Yeah.
Huh. So please tell me a little bit about your background. Where did you work, and what has been your journey so far?
So I come from Ranchi. It's Dhoni's hometown. Being a fan of cricket, and I belong to a family where you know that education is the only sort where you would get through
Hmm.
in the future as a career. So I built up in that environment. I would say I was not very sincere throughout studies till 10th, but I managed to get through. But yes, I loved mathematics. I loved few other subjects. Then uh, I cracked few Olympiads. I cracked few entrance examination. I passed out of 2014 batch mechanical engineering. There also I had some research experience. I published few research papers there. That again came out of self motive. I was the only student who got selected for the UGC SAP fellowship, and then I was the only student to get the JNCSR fellowship, where only 13 to 14 students get selected. So I had a hunch about research. I never knew few years before that I would be going for the PhD program, but yes, it's there in me that I need to contribute to the academic sector. So that has always been there after the second or third year of my college, wherein I got a chance to do an internship with Young Intern program.
Hmm.
So I know I'm talking too much, but I like talking
No, I
about
really
these
want
stuff
to
in the
know,
sense
like, what
after
what
research.
what is the background, so that we can relate how this particular field of researcher and the skida of to do a PhD came from.
Right.
So that's why it is important to
Okay.
understand. So, like, is it coming
Right.
naturally, or did you plan for it? So these kind of things, I'm sure, I am at least
Yeah.
looking for. Okay, so
And
let's begin this particular part. Why FPM? Why PhD from IIMs?
I would I would get back to my journey, like how it started in the sense so while I was working with Byjus, upGrad, and e-GMAT, and currently working with IIM, I've been in education sector since long. So I understand this. I have tried to understand as much as possible till now, with my experience, how the edtech thing is working, how the learner mindset is changing in the sense.
Mhm.
And how the young generation are perceiving things.
Mhm.
Then how these questions comes up, like in the same situations, Byjus takes some other decisions, upgrad takes some other decisions. So how they are strategizing their stuffs in this e-learning sector, in the education sector. So first of all, it was about bottling down to the how I'm trying to answer my questions. So then it came to, okay, this will be a management kind of line where I want to get into. So there it's not about production and operations. So I so that then it was more sort of IIMs. Then it was not about IITs at that point of time.
Which IIM did you
Right.
apply to, and if you can
Yeah.
share the process little bit?
Right. So I applied to four: Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Kozhikode, and Indore.
Mhm.
Mostly because of the research areas. It aligned to my SOPs and my research
Hmm.
areas as well. So and I managed to get interview calls from the three. I was not able to get call from Bangalore, so I needed to have a good CAT score, and secondly, I needed to have a strong SOP connect interlinks between them. So about the process, for first interview, due to COVID, all the three interviews were online.
Mhm.
So Kozhikode interview was on Skype. It lasted for around 25 minutes.
Mhm.
So there were three faculty members in the panel. So the first question was straightforward. There was no kind of introduction. It was straightforward to me. From a strategy background, why do you want to pursue strategy? So the question started with that, and then sorry, and then Second was then the second faculty started asking questions on my research paper. It was on my the final year project that I did. We published it in an international journal. So 10 to 15 minutes I was like drilled by that particular research paper, like what and why and how and what will be the application, some other kind of stuffs going on in that. After that, that's, I guess, I'm just assuming that he might be the most senior most faculty in that particular uh, uh, panel. So he interviewed in between. Okay, lots done with the research paper. Let's come. So what you have done in strategy? What is strategy? He started asking questions on who all you know, who are the well-known names in strategy, kind of those stuffs. And then why do you want to leave your high-paying job? More sort of technical questions. I'd say around 70%, and then the 30% questions more sort of it was cultural fit, in the sense if you belong to the research sector or not. Okay. That was Kozhikode. Ahmedabad, more sort of it was 2 rounds of interview. They do have 2 rounds of interview always. First one is always the elimination round, where they check on only the subject. So I was like, it started with tell me about yourself, then quickly went on to my work experience, and then how strategy is fitting your work experience. Why strategy? Do you have any problem statement? Research questions like if my SOP is so SOP becomes a very important part. It then might not be direct questions on that, but yeah, you would certainly know that this is coming from the SOP. SOP is needed in all the institutes you apply. In the sense, so for Indore itself, so it depends on the number of words that words that you limit yourself. Indore has a 300 word limit for your SOP. But Bangalore does not have any kind of word restrictions. Kozhikode does not have any word restriction, and Ahmedabad also does not have any kind of word restriction. It's generally good to have around 600 or 1000 words of SOP. If you can, it's not just like that. You need to fire in everything in SOP. It has to be very precise. It has to be very specific, and yeah. So it is required in all the IIMs. I guess in all the old IIMs it is required.
Yes. So after let's go back to IIM Ahmedabad's interview. So elimination round. Right. So first round is over, and then so a few candidates are asked to not to continue for the next round. Yeah, for the second round. Right. Okay. So what next in the second round? So what is asked in the first round? So subject matter.
Yeah, first round is more sort of subject matter and your research experience. If you have any research paper, they will ask it. If not, like I told specifically that I work at IMS Learning, so they started questioning me about what is your work experience. If you have taught some subjects on videos, what is those videos, and then about education sector, and then about strategy, like why strategy. If you have any problem statement, state it. And so a few questions were based on my problem as well. I stated a problem statement in my SOP. It was more sort of around dynamic capabilities and uncertainty going around. So there were questions based on it, and in the sense, yeah. So that was more sort of technical questions. More sort of 90% was technical questions in the sense, rather than asking about why PhD program and all those stuffs. So once you get through the first round, second round is more sort of why PhD. It was a straightforward question to me, like it takes around 10 years to complete your PhD. How will you contribute? How will you be able to sustain those number of years? And then there were a few questions on why not other areas? Why only strategy? You have so they have that innovation and education thing also in their list of specializations, right? So why not that? Kind of those questions were asked to me, and then they were seeking a cultural fit. Do you have the research instinct?
That rigor in you, yes. That rigor to, yeah. So, okay.
To sustain those
dreadful days, so to say.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So that was more sort of that. And then again, so and one of the interesting question was, So I had that education background, right? Ed tech background. I was coming from work. I was working in this sector. So, but he was very specific that this is not research that you will be doing. So uh, good that you are passionate about education, but this is not education. So this is more sort of research. So how are you planning to do that? So these kind of questions were there. And then
Okay,
talking about the campus. And
okay. And any other specific question which you remember?
in this particular round, in the second round, uh, it was no. This was I guess I these were the only questions. Like I stated about 10 years of thing, and then
And so how
do
long
you do
this?
your research?
Okay, carry on.
This yeah. So the first round went about 25 minutes. Second round went it was short round. It was like 10 to 15 minutes. I guess they were sitting to eliminate or sitting to select. I don't know, but it was very short round. They were just flipping the pages of my, I guess, of my that application that we send, and then 10 to 15 minutes were there, and then it was yeah, that was more sort of stuff, more sort of in the first round. I do remember that work experience was majorly exploited, in the sense they asked me about how do you bring this. So you have been in education sector, you talk about edtech, you talk about online learning. How will you change if you are currently right here as a faculty? How will you change this kind of? Do you think that this online learning is the future, or do you think that what is it? So yeah, there were the questions based on work experience, and it was very specific, more sort of how you're relating it to strategy as well. So I more sort of whatever I had studied in strategy, I tried to amalgamate with it or combine with what I'm saying with my work experience as well. Yeah.
Okay. And what about Indore? Because I'm kind of now waiting for it, and I'm wearing my IIM Indore t-shirts. I'm very happy to learn from you, because maybe we can resonate some of our experiences of interview here. Yeah, please tell me.
Yes. Yeah, so Indore interview was more sort of it was again of 20 to 25 minutes. It went on to 20 to 25 minutes, and again it was straightforward. First question to me, that you have done a research paper on modeling of continuous casting. Have you heard about the term investment casting? So that was the first question. And it was like there's not even a single minute to breathe. And then the first question, I was like, okay, I took some time to regather me, because investment casting is a long term thing that I had learned way back in my mechanical engineering, and the faculty was just threw it to me. I sort of was not able to answer that particular question, what was it, but I tried to answer it through some applications where it is used. So then he asked, then interesting thing about Indore interview was it took a case based interview kind of turn, which I did not experience in Ahmedabad and Kozhikode. He gave me a scenario where you have a product, then you need to let's say strategize to, and you need to like strategize for 3 different target segments. You choose your target segments and tell about how will you position or how will you market these products, how will you strategize these products there. So that and more sort of they called themselves as panel 1, panel 2 and panel 3, even though there were only one professor in one panel, but they called that this was the first panel, this is the second panel. And yeah, and one more interesting was that I had to show my ID card first, that I am Kushagra Sharan. It did not happen in Kozhikode. That just on a very lighter note I said that. And then on the second panel, the first panel went on about that. It was more sort of it turned to be a heated discussion, like about competitive positioning. How will you position it? What is the focus differentiator? How will you differentiate a product? In the sense, it went on to that. Again, I would say it was purely technical. None of the questions was like, why do you want to do PhD here? And then in the panel 2, I was asked about why do you want to do a PhD in strategy? And then he went
I did
on
not
to ask,
understand here. Panel 2 means faculty 2.
Faculty 2, right?
Okay, yes.
Panel 2 means faculty 2. So yeah, so faculty 2 started asking me about what why do you want to do strategy? And then he started asking me about uh, what how will you define a research statement. Ask questions me about hypothesis testing, variance, standard deviation. What is the relation between variance and standard deviation? I actually faltered for a second between the relation between variance and standard deviation, but then I got it after that. And then it was he was done in like around 5 to 7 minutes. First faculty took around 10 to 12 minutes talking to me, and then the final faculty talked. The final faculty panel 3, the faculty 3, he started asking about strategy, what define strategy, and then when I started defining strategy, I was taking different names, that I've got Chandler defined like this, Mintzberg defined like this, Porter defined like this. Then he started questioning. Okay, in between the definitions, he started asking questions, and then he talked about, if do you have any problem statement, do tell that. And then no questions was asked on about my problem statement. And then the final question was about any questions. That has always been a tricky part of my interview. In Ahmedabad also, they asked me in the final round of interview, they asked me about any questions from your side, and in the Indore interview also they asked me any questions from your side.
So did you ask any question to them? To the panelists?
Okay. No, I did not ask any questions in Ahmedabad also, in Indore also. So Ahmedabad, when I said for this, so I was actually very honest in the interview, in the sense I told that specifically, sir, I have thought about this question many a times, that what question I will ask in the interview. Mostly all the information are available. It will be more sort of a very casual question that I will have, like how is the environment on campus again. So he was like, no, you ask questions here. And if so he told me to ask questions couple of times in Ahmedabad, but then it happened. So like I asked only one question, and he was then started explaining, okay, this is the campus, we are a dry state, so all the stuff. So it was a pleasant atmosphere in Ahmedabad, very contrast to what happened in the last year of my interview. So
okay, so you appeared for these interviews in 2019 as well.
Yes, I was interviewed in 2019 as well, in a different area. I applied that time. I applied in a different area, but that was a very ruthless interview for me. In the sense, they just I had a very I started doubting myself, like how can I go so wrong in an interview? A lot of, but that interview was like a nightmare for me, a real nightmare for me. And I'm not saying that this year I've got through, and hence I'm saying that, but that was real. I have faced failures. I have faced that, okay, you're not selected, but that was something that really arose questions like, is it really that bad? So that was I would say that was good, because that really started bringing back those questions, like why actually you want to do PhD. This is the scenario. So the questions was not at all, last year also it was not at all, why do you want to do PhD, where I got stuck. It was all about it was very simple. I had written book, and he gave me a problem statement that, okay, draw a graph of the selling of books from your side. So I drew a graph. Then he started asking about how will you check it in a scenario where it's not for an year, it's for few months. Then they started bringing it down. I was trying to answer it, but then I did not know what was the correct answer for that particular question. But
okay,
yeah,
so in 2019 to 2020, from a ruthless experience to final selection letter. So I'm sure you must have sailed through a lot of things, and 1 year has given you enough time to think through and reapply to all these institutes and all. How did you prepare for these things? How did you prepare for the entrance qualifying exam? Which exam did you give? And then how did you prepare for these interviews and all those things? So could you please slightly throw some light over here? Maybe the audience are looking for this kind of answer, that how to prepare finally to reach up to that that level of getting at least a interview call.
Okay, so for interview call, you need two things. one is your score and one is your application, right? I would say two things, because in the coming days also the score will matter most, seeing the competitions that we are now it is going to face, not only for corona but because of the 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 exposure that this program is giving, in the sense. So yeah, that is one. Second is about the application. So as I said, when I was rejected last year, then it took up a couple of months for me, honestly, to think about, because I was also working, to think about. So whenever I was traveling, whenever I was at home or in the office, I was thinking about, is this the actual program? There was some self-doubt, but then when I knew, okay, there were some faults, I identified those faults. I started thinking about SOP first. It was more sort of, because if I'm aligned with my SOP, I knew that why I want to do PhD, and second, I will start thinking about what research I need to think about. So it's more sort of, you're thinking about which area you want to get in, and then what problem statement you have currently based on what you have. So you start writing a SOP from day one. So I would rightly, like, I started writing like why I want to do PhD, why I want to get into IIMs. I started penning
So what kind of
penning it down.
points you considered? Why do you want to do the PhD program? Why this IIM or that IIM? Because we have to change as per the IIM requirements as well. But the purpose of doing a PhD remains the same.
Right.
Yeah, so that
Right.
remains the same. But then, as per the requirement of the IIM and aligning the objective of our PhD and then the objective of the institute itself, maybe we align here and there. Maybe we, little bit we can change. But then, what kind of key questions you always consider to write the SOP? So first is, as I hear from you, is why PhD, then why this particular IIM, maybe why this area, which particular area you are looking for, like why strategy and all. Right. So you have to think through and then answer that question as well.
Yeah.
And maybe what is the future course of action? Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Very important in the sense.
Yes.
It gives clarity. Yeah.
Okay. So finally, which IIM you are joining?
I will be mostly joining IIM Kozhikode.
A wonderful campus. It's amazing. It's wonderful. I had been there once. I got a chance to visit there once. And okay, so what are the key points which you are, you can, with your experience, you can share with the potential PhD students, that what is that thing which is these panelists are looking for?
Okay. Only three things I would say. It's apart from the basics of the subject knowledge, of course. Only three things. It's the honest intent in your of what you want to do. Second is about the clarity in the mindset of why you are doing in PhD. And third, about the research instincts, like you want to delve into one question again and again and again. So if you have that particular thing, if you can showcase that, it's great. And yeah, this is the thing that they majorly look for. If you want to build it, then you need to get it into right from the day one. It's a 20 minutes interview. Like, you cannot, 20 to 25 minutes interview, you cannot afford to even step down for a single minute. That's what happened.
My interview, I remember my interview lasted for 45 minutes. And I was like breathless the moment I came out, and I was totally breathless, and people were coming with a glass of water and giving it to me, that okay, now tell us what happened inside, because they were very curious to know that why 45 minutes. So that kind of experience I have had. So I can totally resonate what you have experienced, and this is really, really incredible, getting into an IIM and doing those that particular journey, and in sailing through that particular journey of a PhD program at IIMs. So anything else, any favorite quotation you have to keep yourself motivated, and you must be preparing yourself for another 4.5 years. So what is that? How are you preparing?
So since there is only one thing that I always have in my mind right from childhood, when I when through the inhibitions that I've got from my parents, it's like never give up. on whatever you are doing. It's like, I guess, if you are someone who is watching this video, have watched A Pursuit of Happiness, right? There is a famous line that if it is your dreams, you need to protect it. So,
Uh-huh.
and it's a very, very important line, in the sense, you if it's your dream, you need to be very clear of what you are doing.
Hmm.
And if you're doing it, never give up on that. Never give up, never
Hmm.
ever give up on that. So it's not about the IIMs. I'm just saying that, let's say, for any particular person, something will be like, I want to go there and I want to do this. Just go through that journey. Sometimes it will be very lonely. Sometimes the friends will be there, sometimes no one will be there. You need to be very motivated, and things will align. It's
Hmm.
good things never come up without sacrificing, or without
Mhm.
compromising, or without
So
something like
I'm
yeah.
I'm really very happy to hear all these
And never
wisdom
miss
words
another
from
update.